Women are powerful creators. The Align Women podcast features female entrepreneurs, leaders, and other professional women who've demonstrated agency and innovation in their personal and professional lives. I'm your host, Amy Evans. I have authentic, intimate conversations with my guests that highlight their paths to success, their struggles and accomplishments, and the things that currently excite, motivate, and inspire them to turn their visions into reality. Welcome to episode 6 of the Align Women podcast. I'm Amy Evans, your host and the founder of Align Women, a leadership and networking organization for professional women. The podcast features female entrepreneurs, leaders, and other professional women who've demonstrated agency and innovation in their personal and professional lives. With me today is Tonyel Thompson with Real HR Hero. Tonyel is a consultant who provides business support services to small and mid-sized businesses with specialties in human resources and recruiting. She's also a founding member of the first Align Women Mastermind, so she is near and dear to my heart, and I'm really excited to have her here on the podcast. Welcome, Tonyel.
Hello.
So let's get right into these questions. Okay. You and I have had the opportunity to work together because you worked at a client that I serviced when I was with an insurance company, and we reconnected when you now started providing HR consulting services, and I became a health insurance broker, and I was so thrilled that you decided to join the Align Women Mastermind. And so I've had a few different opportunities to work with you and to experience you. And my experience of you, the way that I would describe you, is that you are extremely technically proficient at what you do. You like the nuts and bolts of the service that you provide to your clients. So Tell me how the work that you do fulfills you and satisfies you.
So I work for companies and leaders that are typically in the growth stage of their business. So I think part of what I enjoy is that it's never the same. So even when, I'm drafting an employee handbook or policies, and even though I've done that, several times before, it's different every time for every client that I work with. So I really enjoy that part of my job. But what's most satisfying, I think, is when helping leaders, and even though some of these people, they know what they're doing, even when they've been in, running businesses or whatever, helping them with things that they can't get to even maybe. I love to hear the relief in their voices with each completed task. It's one less worry for them. So that's really, I think, where I get what most satisfies me about what I do.
And you and I have talked about the discovery process that you go through when you bring on a new client, the needs assessment that you do. Talk a little bit about that, because I have seen how you light up when you talk about really getting under the hood of a business to discover what they need. So tell me about that process for you.
So it depends. So not every situation that I'm involved in needs a needs assessment necessarily. So sometimes going in, the client already is fully aware of what they need me to do. But oftentimes they have no idea. They just know that they're growing and they need professional help when it comes to human resources. So what we start with is it's kind of like a checklist. So it's some of the questions, even going through it, sometimes they seem pointless, but it all tells a story, and I always tell them that from the very beginning. But it takes about, depending on the size of the client, it takes about an hour with our time together to go through all of this. Do they have an employee handbook? Do they have employment insurance? Do they have employee files? How are they processing their I-9s? Where are they keeping that information? There's all kinds of things that we go through in the beginning, and it varies. And the process I go through kind of grades the client. However, it's just in the end, just to let them know, yes, you need a lot of help, or you know what, and for the most part you're doing okay, but you definitely could make things better. So it's a process that I think, and then after that, then so that's in the assessment, and then from there I provide a gap analysis. So I provide a report that shows these are the things that you're doing well, but you could improve. These are the things you absolutely should, for compliance reasons, should definitely start doing. Um, and then what's next? What I recommend in priority, what's priority. But again, it's their business. It's their time that they'll need to take to work with me to get these things done. But then we decide on an action plan, and then we move forward. So that's really, in the beginning, I think, the best route to take, versus just picking different projects here and there. Let's decide what's priority and let's get those done first.
Totally makes sense, and
Yeah.
such a valuable service to be able to provide to business owners that are growing and flying by the seat of their pants, because they're driven by their own vision for their business.
Yes.
And don't necessarily know all the intricacies, particularly in California,
Yes.
of things like applications and job descriptions and
Right.
and onboarding and payroll processes and all of that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what you do is extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your background. You were in the corporate world, and then you chose to start your own consulting business.
Right.
Is this your first entrepreneurial experience?
So it's my first. Well, many years ago, I had a small cleaning business, which it was short lived because then I moved to California actually, and I didn't continue to do that here. But so that for entrepreneurial, that's what I did. But growing up, my father had actually several businesses in auto mechanics. He also had a general contracting business. So I kind of always knew at some point that I would have my own business. And so in working for my last employer, I worked with them from the growth stage to mature stage, and then they sold their business, and it was just perfect timing. I had a lot of experience under my belt, and even in the situations that I've gone through with them have helped me understand how to run a business, if you want to say. They were very helpful and very transparent with me, and which afforded me to be able to go out on my own and do this on my own. And they're very, very excited for me. So
Yeah, and that was the client that I worked with as well,
yeah.
and I know that they are wonderful people.
Yes.
So tell me, this is something I've heard you write about. I've seen you write about, and it really stuck with me. The importance of having a good employee relations strategy that extends from pre-hire all the way to post-termination. Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of employers don't consider as a whole process, and
Right.
and what the downsides can be if they don't consider that. So tell me how what you do for clients in relation to their employee relations strategy.
So I like to believe that it's really important for employers to look at the employee's life cycle. So that stems from talent acquisition all the way to separation and on sometimes, because the support that sometimes people need after they leave, it all paints a picture for them. And with the ways that people can provide recommendations and reviews even now on employers through social media like Glassdoor and things like that. Sure. They even terminated or former employees can paint not a picture that you want about your organization. And the employees, when they're looking for employment, they do look at Glassdoor and other websites like that for the reviews for these companies. So it's important on both ends. So yes, have a fancy and a really great talent acquisition strategy, but oftentimes it ends there. For companies, they believe that okay, we're going to do a 30 to 60 day review, and then that's it. Then they've been trained and go to work. Well, there's a lot more that comes into play, I believe, in between there. And, some companies, they do have benefits packages and things like that, but it depends on the culture and even the generation of your employees. What do you need to market to? What is your branding, your employee branding for these people? So, they so some employees may, all they want, you want to make sure they have fantastic healthcare benefits, which that's when I let them talk to you. But some employees could care less about their healthcare. They just want, emergency plan, but they want to have more flexible schedules. You have to go out and find out what your employees want so that you can, first of all, bring on the right employees, and then also keep those employees and have them be loyal employees all the way till it's time for separation, which always eventually happens in some form, right? So I feel like there's this middle chunk that employers, especially smaller employers, just don't know how to handle. It doesn't have to be expensive to take care of your employees. So what can we do? What strategy can we have to really take care of them? And I believe that doing all of that, you're on the right track to mitigating risk, right? So you've been taking care of all these people during this time. They appreciate what you're doing for them. They see that you're doing all these things. That's going to help mitigate risk. Now we come to compliance and things. So I help my clients with all kinds of compliance matters. So again, I think I brought this up already, but I-9 compliance, disciplinary, they want to say, for instance, they want to terminate somebody. Okay, let's go through the process. What have you done in the past? Like I walk them through situations. But I think for every client, it's different. And the things that they need to handle in order to mitigate risk. But for the most part, I think taking care of your employees is the best way to go.
Yeah. And you and I attended an employment law update recently with
Yep.
another one of our Aligned Women Mastermind members who's an employment law attorney. And she was one of the speakers of a few at the firm. And that was the takeaway message that I got, was really treat your employees well, because that is the best way, as you said, to mitigate risk. Have generous policies, assume the best. Obviously protect yourself as an employer, but treat your employees well, because that will prevent a lot of other hassles down the road. And I know that you are very much in agreement with that approach.
Yeah. And one of the things is that, yes, treat them well, but what you might think, for a long time, I managed to, the way that I thought I wanted to be treated. Well, you really should be managing to the way your employees want to be treated. And it sounds easier than it really is, whether it's surveys or whatever you're going to do to figure out what this need is, but so I feel like some employers just go, well, I give them benefits, I do all these things. Well, maybe that's not what they want. So let's figure it out. Why is there a group of employees that there's high turnover? Let's look at these things. So yeah, it's
and that's
a lot
also
to it.
That's also a service that you can provide as part of HR consulting, is to come in and do a needs assessment and employee survey to help identify. And I am assuming this is true. In many cases, employees feel more comfortable speaking with someone who's come outside the company, and is there presenting themselves as being there to really understand what the employees need, as opposed to someone inside the company where the employee may have a prior relationship and may not necessarily feel comfortable being completely open. But hiring someone outside who can come in and do that assessment could be really, really valuable for the employer and the employee.
Right. And even in the past, even with exit interviews, so using an external resource, sometimes you get better responses in exit interviews with using external as well. And interviewing your employees in general, it's oftentimes you get better results when it's not the owner of the business doing the interview. So
right, or the person in charge of your payroll, or
right.
So tell me about the difference between hiring an external HR consultant, which is what you do,
Mhm.
versus hiring an internal HR person or outside legal counsel. And we've covered a little bit of that just in the course of our conversation. But put it in a nutshell for me. What's the value of hiring an external HR consultant?
Okay. So I think they all are important. So with an external consultant, that person is not typically going to be there every day helping you with daily operations of human resources. Will they step in and help? Definitely. But is it something that you can rely on day in and day out? If that is something you need, I'm all for having an internal HR representative. And part of the service that I can provide is help you determine if that's a need, and then help you find the right person for your organization. Because there's all kinds of things. People put, do they need payroll experience? Because oftentimes in small businesses, it's an administrative assistant type position, also doing payroll, also doing HR, and that might work. But we need to find the right person. So I'm all for internal, and sometimes as well, you could already have internal human resources that are handling the daily operations, right? But that person is now bogged down with those processes, which then doesn't allow them to, look at the HR strategy, implement change, try to figure out how to better what we're doing when it comes to human resources, right? So then you hire an HR consultant to work alongside that person to help them through that, or the team, or whatever, the owner and the HR person. Really good HR consultants know when it's appropriate to bring in legal counsel. I think, you know, whether it's the HR consultant's partner, or a partner of the client that you're working with, when to use that. Because really, I like to think that human resources consultants are proactive, and legal counsel is more of reactive. They're helping you when you've already been in trouble. Yeah, HR consultants can also help you with that as well, but I like to think that we're more of proactive than reactive. So they all play a part, and you may need them at different times, but I think throughout the whole process, the HR consultant can help you with any of those things. So,
Sure. And for a small business owner who's growing, who may
yeah,
not be in a position to hire a full-time HR consultant, the opportunity to outsource that and to make sure that the proper policies and procedures are in place and the employee handbooks in place, then mitigates the risk of there being a legal issue later
right,
on.
right.
And uh, what I've learned from interacting with employment law attorneys is that if those policies and procedures aren't in place and there's a legal issue as a result, all those policies and procedures have to go back and be put in place once the legal issue happens, because the legal issue uncovers the fact that nothing was in place.
Right.
And so investing in it on the front end allows you to hopefully avoid the legal piece, and the legal piece can be the most expensive piece.
Exactly. Exactly.
So tell me about the recruiting that you do, because you were mentioning all of the things that a typical in-house HR person can handle. And in addition to all of those things, which can be payroll and onboarding employees and employee benefits and open enrollment and all the things that come with that,
Hmm.
there's also the identifying candidates, job descriptions, recruiting piece of
Right.
managing a business. And I know that you offer that as a service as well. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So, there's a couple different pieces to it. So I can come in and do some headhunting, if they know what they are looking for, and take over that piece and do most of the burdensome work in finding qualified candidates to interview, or I can help them with talent acquisition strategy. So why is it hard to find people that stay? Or why is it hard to find people at all? Like, what aren't they doing or not, or what should they stop doing or whatever, in order to find quality candidates. So it's not just like a typical recruiting firm where you go to them and you say, here's the job description, give me some candidates. I can play a more intimate role in that, in making sure that what you're asking for makes sense for your business. And also, like I have a couple clients with special situations, but I have a client that has employees that are making a little bit over minimum wage, and it's just hard to find people that will stay or that will come to work on time and things like that. So the strategy that we've talked about is to find like people that are, because there are people out there that are looking for temporary assignments. That's what they like to do. So hire, train them up for a couple weeks and do this with 4 or 5 employees, and let them know they're being hired on a temporary basis, and that when you need them, you'll give them a call, so that it's not the owner of the company having to step in for these employees that don't show up to work for whatever reason. So there's all kinds of things that come up with helping with talent acquisition and figuring out how to make it work for them. I have another client that is in a really special situation where they have, per their client, they have really strict qualifications. And typically these candidates aren't looking on LinkedIn and Indeed for jobs. So took a lot of work to help them fill these positions, but we did get it done. But, really going out there and, using the network that I have and trying to pull in, and these, a lot of time these people, right now, the people you want are employed typically. So they're not these passive, I'm going to go, typically I'll say they're not these passive candidates where they're coming in and filling out an application, and leaving it at the front desk. That's just, it's not happening anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's, I can do just the recruiting or headhunting, or I can be more intimately involved in figuring out what's working and what's not working.
Got it. Okay, so tell me where people can find you if they want to connect with you.
Okay, so I do have a website, which is realhrhero.com. I also am pretty active on LinkedIn, and you can also search Real HR Hero there, or of course my personal LinkedIn, which is Tonyel Thompson. And yeah, so either one of those you can somehow get through to me. If I can leave my phone number here. Should I leave the phone number as well? Okay, so our business line is 818-305-5255. And you can go ahead and send an email, whatever you need to get in contact with me.
Great. And we will have all of that information posted in the show notes when your episode goes up on the Align Women podcast website. So
okay.
All that information will be very easy to find.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining me today on the Align Women podcast, Tonyel. And look for more episodes with more amazing women at alignwomenpodcast.com. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Align Women podcast. You can find more episodes with more amazing women at alignwomenpodcast.com and visit alignwomen.org to learn more about our leadership and networking organization. This is Amy Evans, and you've been listening to the Align Women podcast.